195.
193.
312.
204. How many countries are there?
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Welcome to Map Men.
We're the men.
And here's the map.
Map Men, Map Men, Map Men.
In 3200 BC,
5223 BN,
the best travelled people in the world were the Iranians.
because every Iranian had visited every country in the world. Iran.
It was the first place to form a sort of government over a sort of territory, making it a sort of country.
But then, visiting every country became doubly difficult when Egypt assembled itself into a state of its own.
And things only got more complicated from there. Countries started popping up everywhere, including early versions of China, Vietnam, India, Armenia, North Korea, and finally every other country.
So, what exactly is the grand total now at 5 p.m. in 2025? Because if you're cramming for a pub quiz, or planning an Olympic opening ceremony, or making a website drop-down menu for select your country, or making an episode of Map Men about exactly how many countries there are, exactly how many countries there are matters.
The most commonly used answer comes from this important building on the green screen behind me, the United Nations, where the world's nations gather to discuss problems and find solutions. If you're a member of it, you're a country, and the number of members is... It's a UN Decree 193.
Here they are. Oh, and there's also 2 observer states, who get to speak at meetings but not vote. Long story.
The UN has revised to 195.
The perceived officialness of this number creates an opportunity for record collectors with too much time on their hands, such as Graham Hughes, who in 2012 became the first person to visit every single one.
And he did it without taking a single flight.
Bye, Mum. I'll see you in just over 4 years.
But did Graham really finish the job? Can you definitely say he visited every country in the world just because he followed the UN's list?
Not necessarily. Take Taiwan.
Something China wants to do.
Taiwan, which behaves exactly like a country, with its own government, flag, military, currency, capital city and national anthem, is not considered a country by the UN, because Taiwan claims that it's actually China.
What?
In 1927, a civil war broke out between the ruling Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party.
The communists won, and the old government fled to Taiwan, where they've been holed up ever since, resulting in these 2 countries both claiming to be the real China.
For a long time, most of the world continued to recognise only the exiled government, but the passage of time
And the passage of economic superpower
saw Communist China fully accepted by the UN in 1971. Taiwan is, of course, just one of many examples of de facto countries who lack UN recognition for similar reasons.
Others are Kosovo, Somaliland, Western Sahara, Northern Cyprus, South Ossetia, Transnistria, Abkhazia, EUA, Cook Islands and FMOM, who aren't members but all have at least one member friend.
So, if we add these countries in practice countries to our list of unrecognised countries, UN recognised countries, we get a grand total of...
Some more for the slate, 208.
But that number's super contentious. At least the UN's 195 countries are countries everyone agrees are real countries, aren't they, Mark?
No, they're not, Mark. The UN members list confusingly includes lots of countries whose countryness is not recognised by some of their fellow members. These include Cyprus,
not recognised by Turkey,
Armenia,
not recognised by Pakistan,
South Korea,
not recognised by North Korea,
not
recognised by South Korea or Japan,
Israel,
not recognised by 28 UN countries,
and China.
not recognised to this day by 12 UN countries, including Bhutan, who uniquely doesn't believe in Taiwan either.
So if we only counted countries on the UN members list who aren't disputed by anybody, our total number of countries would stand at, lose the suspect states, 188. Problem free.
Not problem free.
This number has the extremely unsatisfying effect of leaving big empty gaps on the world map that apparently belong to no country at all.
So, because we're big fans of colouring in,
Shading. The UN knows best. Bring back the rest. So that's the answer. Thanks for watching. The end. Goodbye.
hang on, I've just realised we can't use the UN's list.
Why is that?
A country that indisputably exists and is very important to me is missing. England.
Oh dear. Countries in the UN have to be not only autonomous, but sovereign, and those two words don't mean the same thing.
Autonomous means you come up with all your own laws and taxes and so on. But sovereign means you have the last word on these laws and taxes, and there is no one higher up who can interfere.
Many autonomous regions around the world can't become sovereign until they're let go by their host countries, such as Catalonia,
Who need permission from Spain,
Chechnya,
who need permission from Russia,
and Scotland.
who need permission from Keir Starmer.
So that's why the UK is a member of the UN, but the four countries that make it up, England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, are not.
I know that, but the only available word for what England is country. If our list is going to include every country in the world, it simply has to be included.
It's not sovereign.
It's got an emoji flag.
Yeah, fair enough. UK countries uncombined, 199. But now we've opened a massive can of worms. If we decide to count country-like places that don't have their own sovereignty, we have to include crown dependencies, overseas territories, constituent countries, autonomous regions, specialist municipalities and free associations join the crew. 282. This is getting really hard to count.
Perhaps the best way to settle this and come up with a true number is to find a definition of the word country we can all agree on.
Such as the one they agreed on at the 1933 Montevideo Convention.
But what was that?
90 years ago, 20 Pan-American countries flew to the capital of the country with the most U's in it to have a meeting to agree what was and wasn't a state.
Many of them had recently become independent, and they were very keen to enshrine the right to self-governance on an important piece of paper.
The 4 simple criteria for statehood they came up with were
a permanent population, a defined territory, a government, and capacity to enter into relations with other states.
On the 26th of December, they realised they'd all missed Christmas and quickly signed a landmark agreement before flying home with duty-free gifts to their families.
Merry Christmas, darling. Sorry, here's a massive Toblerone.
And so, since 1933, we've had an official definition of what a country is.
That should make counting straightforward, but the Montevideo definition has a couple of major flaws.
First of all, under the Montevideo Convention, the European Union counts as a country. It has a territory, a population, international relations, and full control of its member states.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like it does.
And the second problem is,
Under the Monte Convention, this tree, a clearly defined territory in which I am both population and government and have capacity to enter into relations with other governments,
I'm listening,
is a country. I vow to tree my country is a tree.
this may sound silly,
It is, isn't it?
but across the world there are countless areas that claim to be countries under this exact same criteria, with zero recognition from any other state.
And they're known as micronations. Our favourite.
There are 86 micronations noteworthy enough to get a Wikipedia article, bringing our total to...
Micronations we collate, 368. That's rather a lot. Do micronations really need to be included on our very serious list?
Let's look at loads of examples.
You can have Uno.
Just off the coast of Suffolk is this tiny disused naval fort, which is technically an independent country.
When it was abandoned after World War II, it was in international waters, which meant it was technically up for grabs.
In 1967, fisherman Roy Bates turned up, intending to start a pirate radio station.
You're listening to CFM, playing you the very best in pop, rock and country.
But quickly decided instead to declare the fort an independent country that he was prince of,
There's a thought.
and named it Sealand.
Sealand still declares itself an independent country today, under Prince Michael Bates, who keeps his dad's dream afloat by selling titles and passports to documentary presenter after documentary presenter after documentary presenter. There are similarly silly stories for the small so-called states of Redonda, Seborga, West Arctica, Ladonian, Utopia, Zakistan, Wagamamona, Space Kingdom of Asgardia, and so on 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 and so on.
For our sensible list of countries to have any meaning, we have to exclude countries that are too small and improbable on the grounds of silliness.
So San Marino and Vatican City are definitely out. No. The real reason that micronations can't be considered on our list is because they all lack the most important thing of all when it comes to whether or not you're really a country.
Recognition from other countries is, at the end of the day, really the only thing that makes a country a country. If your countryness is recognised only by yourself, as much as we love learning about you, we can't put you on our list. Sorry.
And so, the time has now come for the big reveal. Based on all the evidence, the official answer to how many countries are there is 200-ish?
Yeah, high 100s, low 200s.
About 200.
Ultimately, because different countries recognise different countries as countries, the only possible answer to the question, how many countries are there, is it depends who you ask. Counting's a pointless task. It depends who you ask. Perhaps it's more important to ask why it matters. Counting countries seems like a very 20th century pastime on an increasingly interconnected planet. The more the world's nations work together, the more we harmonise our trade and laws, and the more we interact on a daily basis with people from all over the world, the more we celebrate diversity within countries, the more the lines between nations and regions get beautifully blurred. Your nation state is just one of many different entities you can claim allegiance to, from your city, to your region, to your continent or your hemisphere. In time, the question of how many countries there are will only become more and more complicated and become less and less relevant.
Can I still wave my flag?
You can do what you want.
Hooray!